Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Destiny. This is Afro-Pinionated, and in today's video, finally we're gonna get into like a legal type or centered video. In this video I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 important things, well, what I feel like are important things that I learned throughout law school, internships, the whole journey, you know. I did because it's like the first time that I'm making this kind of video, but yeah, we're gonna get right on into it. Now we do have to do a couple disclaimers. Now listen, for those of y'all that don't know, I recently graduated in law school back in May, and I'm currently awaiting my bar results, so I am not licensed. I am not giving you legal advice. This is infotainment, okay? This is legal information in the form of entertainment, so in the form of entertainment, okay? So be clear, this is not legal advice, all right? So just gotta get that out there. But yeah, you guys let me know down in the comments if what I'm saying is making any sense, because you know, if you can explain something to somebody who doesn't have a legal background, that means you truly understand it and you know how to convey the information in a comprehensible manner. So let me know down in the comments if anything doesn't make sense regarding what I'm saying. Without further ado, let's get straight on into it. So number 1, pressing charges is not a real power. What does that mean, Destiny? Well, essentially, if you are a victim of something, I had to make sure it's no lip gloss on my teeth. But if you are a victim of something and you call the police or whatever, and you tell, you know, the police, the DA, whoever, I want to press charges. Guess what? The DA, the government, whoever, prosecution, the DA is the government, but they can still say, you know what, we're not going to file charges. We don't think that we have enough evidence to proceed, or for whatever reason, you know, they can say, oh, we're still not going to proceed with charges. Vice versa, if you say, oh, I don't want to press charges, you know, it was all a misunderstanding, whoop-de-wop, which happens a lot in like domestic violence types of cases, they can still proceed with pressing charges, or they can proceed with filing charges against that defendant. So to me, that means that the power to press charges is illusory, and it's really just a sign or a signal to prosecution that you're either going to be compliant or not compliant. And if you're not compliant, guess what? They can still subpoena you. You still gonna be on that stand. Subpoena you. If you fail to answer the subpoena, then you can be fined, you can be jailed. So I mean, like, once you call the police, just know that it's going to be out of your hands. In all honesty, like, you're no longer going to have a say on whether the case proceeds. You're no longer going to have a say on if the case no longer proceeds and it's just done and over with, you know. So I didn't know that. I thought, oh, I got the power, Bookie. If something happens, like, I could press charges, or I could choose not to press charges. But no, it's really illusory. It's really like a false sense of power, you know. Number 2, this one, I don't know, you know, like, I never viewed a common law marriage as like something that's like real. I always thought that it was just like, it's not like legally recognized, but a common law marriage is a valid legal marriage. And not every state recognizes, or not every state allows you to establish a common law marriage. But I went to school in Texas. I live in California. They don't recognize, California does not recognize common law, or they don't, it's not that they don't recognize it, it's that they don't allow you to establish a common law marriage in California. But in Texas, one of the ways that you can create or like establish a common law marriage, it's like kind of easy. Like, I think a lot of people are actually married, but they don't really know that they're legally married. So in Texas, one of the ways that you can establish a common law marriage is to, number 1, agree to be married, number 2, live together, and then the last element is hold yourself out as being married. And like, those, you could easily achieve those things. Like, if you're like, oh, we don't need to have a formal marriage, we don't need to spend all this money on a wedding, it's just a piece of paper, we're basically already married, we already live together, why do we need to have a big, you know, elaborate wedding, and why do we have to go through all these court documents? Like, we're basically already married, right? Yeah, babe, yeah, I agree. Okay, and then y'all already live together. Check. And then the last one, if you're posting pictures, if you guys, especially like, I know a couple people, like, they wear a ring. They have like a promise ring or whatever, they wear a ring. I would argue that that is holding yourself out as married. Also, when people are like posting pictures on Instagram or, you know, whatever, Facebook, whatever y'all use, I don't know. But if you're posting pictures and you're like, me and hubby on vacation, that's my wifey, that's my old lady, that's my wifey, like, y'all is married, boo. Y'all is married. Like in the state of Texas, you would actually be married. And what a lot of people don't realize, like where this comes up, is because it is like a validly legally recognized marriage, they're entitled to certain things. Like I remember in my domestic relations or family law class, we were reading this case about this couple. Like they were common law married. They were common law married, and he had kids from a previous relationship, a previous marriage or whatever. I think it was the spouse, the husband, he ends up dying, and the wife went through the common law wife went through probate court, and she was able to get his stuff, like all his, you know, properties and all of his assets or whatever, his estate. She inherited his estate essentially. And you know, his kids that were from a previous marriage, they tried to fight it. They tried to contest the marriage and everything like that because he didn't have a will. And so, like I said, what people don't realize is that, like, if you are, you know, if you have like a common law marriage, like your spouse is going to be entitled to whatever, they're going to be entitled to the same benefits that a spouse who went through the formal proceedings of a marriage would be entitled to. So that's something to be careful about. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought it was like a different level of marriage with the common law marriage, and it was not a real thing, but it's very real. So you live in a state that recognizes common law marriage and they have alimony. If you're in a state and they have common law marriages and they have alimony, you could get you some alimony. If, you know, your common law spouse dies, what do they call it? Intestate. They die intestate without a will. You know, the spouse is going to get that. They're just going to abide by whatever type of probate code that the state, I don't know if they follow like the UPC or they have their own like a state code or whatever, but they would be able to inherit. So people gotta really be careful about that. I feel like that's not widely known, but yeah, if you have a common law marriage, like it's a legally recognized marriage, and therefore the spouses are entitled to the same benefits that, you know, otherwise like a formal proceeding type of marriage, they're entitled to those same types of benefits. That was a little all over the place. Let me know if that made sense. Let me know. Okay, third thing I learned, and y'all, if you do get a contract, if you ever enter into any type of contract, make sure that it's written. Make sure that it's written. There are certain types of contracts that generally must always be written. And before I go into this one, just know, most of the time for most laws, there is an exception to every law. Generally, the law is ambiguous and it's nuanced. And so what I mean by that is that it's situational. A different set of circumstances is it's going to require like a different application of the law. So moral of the story for this one, get everything in writing, get everything in writing. But there are certain contracts that do require a writing. However, every contract doesn't necessarily need a writing. But just know that if you don't get your contract in writing, you are going to allow the court to set the terms. So that's pretty much what's going to end up happening, because it's going to become a he say, she say thing. But anyway, there is an acronym that they teach us in law school of the types of contracts that always require a writing. It's called MILEC. So M is for marriage contracts. So prenups have to be in writing, have to be signed by the party that enforcement is sought against. Y, year. If the contract can't be performed within 1 year, you need to have a writing. L, land. Contracts for the sale of land, typically always going to need a writing. Where am I? M, Y, L. E, executor contracts. That's if you're the executor of an estate, any types of contracts that you enter to are going to have to be in writing. E, G. G, cost for the goods of sales of $500 or more. Typically, you're going to need a writing. E, G. Yes. Okay, this is the equivalent of me counting on my fingers, okay? And the answer gonna be right, so that's all that matters. But E, G, G, S. The last one is surety contracts. So surety contracts, that's like if you're co-signing for, you know, an apartment or a car or whatever, those types of contracts are gonna need to be in writing. But like I said, you guys, there's always exceptions to everything. And outside of that, MILEGs, generally you won't actually need to have a contract in writing in order to establish that there was a valid contract. Also, there's a difference between contract formation and then contract enforcement. Those are two separate concepts. So valid formation of a contract does not require a writing. unless they are the my legs, the ones that I just told you guys about, generally. Either way, get the contract in writing, please. Get it in writing, because like I said, it's gonna be he say, she say type of situation, and the court might supply some of the terms of the contract, and you never really want that to happen. You want it to be what you guys agreed to. So get it in writing. But I'm just saying, I didn't know, and I feel like it's important to know that you don't have to, you may not necessarily need to have a contract in writing in order for it to be validly formed. Okay, number 4, bankruptcy is a tool. I used to think that if you filing for bankruptcy, like before I took this class, I thought that bankruptcy, if you file for bankruptcy, it's all over. Your credit's going to be permanently ruined. You know, you're not going to be able to get anything. You're not going to be able to do anything. And you're going to have to sell everything that you own in order to pay off the debt. Like, I literally thought that if you file for bankruptcy, that means that you have to pay all of your debts. Not the case. Not the case. When I say it's a tool, I mean that, like, if you find yourself with a whole bunch of unsecured debt and, you know, you don't have a whole bunch of assets that they would force you to liquidate, like, it could actually be beneficial. Even if you do have a bunch of, like, assets or whatever, you own a bunch of properties or something like that, you could go through a reorganization and you still may not have to pay every last cent of your debt. If you're I feel like this is kind of better explained through an example. So if you are an individual and you only own one property, the house that you live in, you only have one vehicle, and you know you're up to date on the payments, or the car is completely paid off. Well, guess what? There is a homestead exemption, and then there's there's exemptions that will allow you to keep your personal vehicle. So if you have a bunch of unsecured debt means there's no collateral attached to the debt. So that's your credit card debt, that is medical debt, that is personal loans that you didn't have to put up anything for. So let's just say you have, you know, $25,000 in credit card debt, and you've got a $30,000 personal loan, and then you've got, what is that, 55, and then you have what, another $35,000 in you have another $35,000 in medical debt. If you file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, your house is going to be excluded, your personal vehicle, if you're up to date on the vehicle, because, you know, a car is a secured debt, right? The car is a security for the debt. But if you're up to date on your payments, or your car is paid off, then you are going to be able to keep the house, keep the car, and then they're going to just discharge. Ultimately, what'll end up happening is they're going to discharge the unsecured debt. So they're going to be discharging that credit card debt, discharging that personal loan debt, discharging that medical debt. And of course, yes, your you know, your credit score is going to take a hit, of course, for, like, I think what is it, 7 to 10 years? I think, I forgot. But that's going to take a hit, obviously. However, you're no longer responsible for the debt, and you get to keep whatever you bought with it. Whatever you spent the money for the personal loan on, you get to keep that. Whatever you spent the money on for your credit card, whatever you bought with your credit card, you get to keep that. The medical debt, they're not gonna make you give back the medicine. They're not gonna make you give back the procedure. Like, you get to reap the benefit of it. So it really is a way to restart your finances. Like, you're kind of going to start off a little bit at the bottom, but, you know, during those 10 years or those 7 years, I think it's 10, it might be 10 years, that is stuck on your credit card, stuck on your credit report, you can be building up your credit. I mean, it's still going to appear, but obviously you can be building up your credit. So, you know, you already have a house, you already have a car. And in this scenario, I'm specifically talking about Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and then I'm also speaking in terms of the person not having any other assets or any other title assets outside of what I just highlighted. So yeah, if you think about it like that, like, I'm able to keep all my shit. Basically, I'm able to keep all my stuff, and and now I don't have to pay the debt. It sounds like a restart to me. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like a clean slate, if you ask me. So when you look at it like that, I feel like, to me, now my own personal thoughts, my own personal opinion, I feel like that's scammy. Hey y'all, so as I'm editing this, I recall about a week ago seeing a post of how Turkey Leg Hut's bankruptcy finally concluded. And, you know, that used to be a popular restaurant in Houston, but they only had to pay $442 to their creditors, who they owed millions to, like
Imagine paying $442 on a $6.5 million loan. Like, be for real. If that's not running off on the plug, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. Bankruptcy is definitely a tool, and I feel like a lot of people don't know about it.
I feel like it's the definition of a scam, but I don't know why I'm surprised that there would be something that exists like that, because if you look at if you look at the financial infrastructure of this company, it's built off scamming. The banking industry, that's a pyramid scheme, that's a Ponzi scheme. Insurance industry, that is a Ponzi scheme, that is a pyramid scheme. Even if you look at stocks, to me, that's gambling. It's gambling. Like, am I tripping? Is that not gambling? It shouldn't really surprise me that something like this exists, where you can basically spend irresponsibly, and then, or maybe it is responsible, I don't know people's situation, but you know, you could spend up money, reap the benefits of whatever you purchased, and then just get the debt discharged. To me, that's crazy. Wow. If you think about it, like, wow, I don't have to sell anything. You know, in a lot of situations, like, you're not gonna be forced to liquidate your house or sell your house or whatever. That's kind of crazy if you think about it. Fifth and final thing for this video that I learned: invoking your right to an attorney is very powerful, because if you're being questioned, if you've been detained and you say, I want a lawyer, they have to stop questioning you. They have to stop interrogating you, because they're no longer allowed to question you outside of the presence of your attorney. That's really important, you know what I mean? Because if you say, oh, or if you just be quiet and you're just, you know, exercising your right to silence, like, they could still talk to you, they could still chatterbox, you know what I mean? They could tell you, they could make up stuff, okay? That's why it's important well, I feel like it's important that whenever, you know, you're dealing with the police and they're questioning you, they're asking you a bunch of questions, they're interrogating you, you're detained, you need to have an attorney present, because the police can legally lie to you. Like, they can make up a bunch of stuff, they can pretend they have all of this evidence against you, and, you know, your friend told on you or whatever. Like, they can tell you that, and it's not viewed, they don't deem that as coercion. So you need to have an attorney present, because they could lie to you. You need to know what they actually have, okay? So I feel like it's important to exercise your right to an attorney in tandem with your right to remain silent. So remaining silent, in my opinion, is not enough. You need to ask for an attorney so that they can't keep talking to you. Because if you tell them, oh, if you're exercising your right to silence, and then you start talking, that's a voluntary confession, okay? Because you're waiving your right to remain silent by speaking to them and by just singing like a bird. So I feel like it's really important to ensure that you're exercising your right to an attorney, because once you tell them that I want a lawyer, they can no longer question you outside of the presence of your attorney. And I feel like that's really, really important, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that. Just from, I interned with a couple of district attorney's office, so I've watched a lot of body cam footage, and I just see people just talking. I'm like, why are they talking? Shush, get a lawyer. Like, tell them I want a lawyer. There's no reason. Like, it's, even when I'm looking at, like, some of these rappers, and you look at their confessionals and, you know, their interrogations and stuff, why are you talking to them? Get your lawyer. I don't know what's going on. Like, but I feel like a lot of people don't know that. Like, they can't question you outside of the presence of your attorney if you're being detained or if you're being questioned about a specific charge. Like, they can't question you outside of the presence of your attorney. Like, you need somebody that knows these laws. You need somebody, okay? Because a lot of times people aren't, they act like a waiver has to be knowing and voluntary and intelligently made, but people don't know the laws. So how can they knowingly, voluntarily, intelligently, you know, waive their right to something that they don't even truly really know they have? They don't even know the extent of their rights. So I don't know how you can waive something like that. But like I said, this might be a little bit all over the place, but just let me know, y'all. Just let me know. A right to an attorney is extremely powerful, and I feel like more people should use it. But let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. I actually have a bunch of other things that I randomly thought about and jotted down. So if you guys found this video to be interesting or helpful, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Also, if I need to explain something a little bit better, let me know down in the comments below. I know this video might be a little bit jumbled, so yeah, like I said, I could explain it down in the comments below if anybody has any particular questions regarding what I said in this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a blessed, awesome, amazing, prosperous day. filled with peace. And yes, I am getting over some congestion, so my voice sounds a little bit weird. It sounds a little bit weird. But yeah, I hope you guys have a amazing week, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye.